Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again, and I'm here with the comparison you've been waiting for, the iPhone SE 2020 versus the Redmi K30 Pro. And on paper guys, these phones could not be any more different. The iPhone SE was just launched recently at a price of $399 US. This is what I consider Apple's flagship killer equivalent, and with the A13 included, this SE is offering flagship performance at a mid-range price. But how will the SE compare when it goes against the affordable flagship killer of 2020, in my opinion so far, the Redmi K30 Pro? Now this is the zoom variant, but for simplicity's sake, we'll be talking about the Redmi K30 Pro in general, and the base version of this you can get for 2,999 yuan or 420 US dollars. So let's go down the list: design, display, performance, quick audio test, share my camera samples, and then let's wrap up with some PUBG Mobile. It's the Apple flagship killer versus the Android flagship killer. Which phone's gonna win? Let's have a look. Design: 7.3 millimeters versus 8.9 millimeters, 148 grams versus 218 grams. So a 70-gram difference between these phones. 1.5 iPhone SEs to equal one Redmi K30 Pro. That is insane. And the design of these phones could not be any more different. Two completely different design languages, but the Redmi K30 Pro definitely feeling a lot more modern, I'd say, in this day and age, with this gorgeous matte back. You got the pop-up camera and you got these very beautiful glossy edges, but the iPhone SE is no slouch in the design department. Remember guys, this is the iconic iPhone 8 design, and it is still an absolutely beautiful device. And looking at the sides of the phones, completely different arrangement here. Volume rocker on the iPhone on the left side, but what do we see on the top? A 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the K30 Pro, and whereas there's no iPhone at this point with a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. On the other side, we see the power buttons, and one is a beautiful red accent, while the other one is right built into this gorgeous red chassis. And I'm glad I picked up the red variant of this iPhone. It just looks so striking. And here we see the bottoms, USB-C and Lightning, single bottom firing speaker on both of these phones. This is the microphone on the iPhones, whereas here we see the SIM tray on the Redmi K30 Pro. But it's on the front where we see the major difference. No getting around it here guys. The bezel design on this Redmi K30 Pro are so much more modern. Even the side bezels are almost double the size here on the iPhone SE. But while the top bezel has less of a reason to be that large, the bottom one does house that Touch ID, which has been very helpful during these times of wearing a mask. I've been able to use and unlock this phone all the time instead of relying on Face ID, which never works when I'm wearing a mask. The iPhone SE is very well built, and this product red version is gorgeous, but let's face it guys, this is a smaller phone and it is harking back to a previous era, and little by little we have seen phones get larger and larger. This Redmi K30 Pro is larger than any iPhone that ships today, and it is one of the heavier and larger phones that I have been reviewing. But let's face it, there are benefits to these large size devices, namely the large displays. But we can't deny guys, phones have gotten larger, but the bezels have gotten so much smaller and the designs have become much more modern. The iPhone SE is a classic design, but there's no way I can go against the Redmi K30 Pro. It takes this design round. Display: 4.7-inch IPS LCD, 6.67-inch AMOLED. Both phones 60 Hz refresh rate, HDR10+ versus wide color gamut and True Tone on the iPhone SE. And also a major difference in aspect ratio. The K30 Pro is using a 20:9 aspect ratio, while the SE has opted for a far more traditional and far more kind of, I guess, old school 16:9 aspect ratio. And guys, I've been using the SE in all sorts of lighting conditions and it has performed very well. You can rely on Apple to deliver the best LCD panels in the industry. But there's no denying the fact, guys, this AMOLED display on the Redmi K30 Pro is absolutely gorgeous. And the fact that it is so large means it's a beautiful big canvas to be able to watch content, play games, and do all that sorts of stuff. In terms of resolution, they're actually a lot closer than you realize. The iPhone SE is using a Retina display, 326 ppi, but it is using an RGB pixel layout, while most AMOLED displays use a pentile matrix. So because of that, even at 309 pixels per inch, the iPhone SE looks as sharp, and in fact maybe even sharper than this Redmi K30 Pro. But I've said it before, guys, I'm a big fan of AMOLED displays, and this Redmi K30 Pro is bringing a gorgeous, albeit 60Hz refresh rate display to the market. But I can't deny it, the Redmi K30 Pro takes this round. The display is just so much larger and more enjoyable than the one on the iPhone SE. But I will mention one thing, guys, and that is that this display is not easy to use one-handed. And one thing I've been able to do on this SE because of the smaller display is type one-handed on this device. When I'm on the train, I can actually hold on to the rail and still use my phone to type out messages, respond to your comments, and it actually gives me more time to do that because I can do this one-handed on this phone. So it's not all negatives because the display is smaller. One-handed use is improved greatly on this iPhone SE. And here's YouTube playback on the iPhone SE and the Redmi K30 Pro. And could these phones be any more different? In fact, let's do this right now. Do you see that? Yes, you can fit the entire iPhone SE into the display and the viewing experience of the Redmi K30 Pro. That's just nuts. Now, I've been enjoying watching content on the SE. The speakers are pretty solid and the display is solid for what it's worth, but it can't hold a candle, let's face it, guys, to this gorgeous bezel-less beauty here, the Redmi K30 Pro. In YouTube playback, it's a clear win here for the Redmi K30 Pro. And in DRM Info, well, the iPhone doesn't even have that application, but it does have full HD Netflix capability. All iPhones are essentially L1, and it's great to see also the Redmi K30 Pro China version here in the Zoom edition also has L1 included. And talking about performance, this is where these phones could not be any more different. We have the Apple A13 Bionic versus the Snapdragon 865. Now, I'm going to say this, and it's going to be controversial, but here goes. The performance on the iPhone SE is better than the performance on the Redmi K30 Pro. And that's for one thing alone, guys. It's the Apple A13 Bionic, which to this date is still the fastest chipset in the world. And with a single core performance, as you can see here, of 1287, it's going to handle daily tasks and fly through things just so much faster than the CPUs on Android phones. Now, I know what you're saying, but Frankie Tech, the multi-core score is so much higher. What gives? Well, first of all, a lot of this multi-core score is based on the RAM of a phone. And if you look at the multi-core scores of the iPhone 11 Pro Max, they are very much in line with the ones you see here on most Android phones. And that's with half of the RAM, 4 gigabytes, that you see on most Android phones, which have 8 or even 12 or even 16 gigs of RAM. Now, that's not to say the 865 is some sort of a bad chipset. And right now for Android users, it's the top of the line. You don't really have another choice. And performance here in MIUI 11 has been solid. I've enjoyed my time with this UI, but I must say I'm very excited for the MIUI 12 announcement coming later today, and I think it's time for them to focus on performance and speed on MIUI to really bring it up to par with iOS, with stock Android, and with the Oxygen OSs of the world that just focus on fluidity and performance. Now, I know a lot of you aren't that familiar with iOS, but let me assure you it is one of the fastest OSs around. This thing just flies on the iPhone SE. Apps load super quickly, and they do stay in memory a lot more than I expected. And so in terms of performance, guys, it is hard really to compare these. And let's face it, there are things that this K30 Pro has above the iPhone SE, like faster RAM, like faster storage, those kind of things. But when it comes down to the CPU and the GPU performance, the iPhone SE has it beat. And now a quick audio test. Let's have a listen. What can I say? A pretty interesting result here, but I think I have a winner, and the winner is the iPhone SE. And there's one big reason why it wins this test. Dual speakers, guys. We do have dual speakers on this iPhone SE. Yes, it is here in the earpiece of this phone, but it does allow for a better stereo separation. And this phone gets loud. It gets a lot louder than I expected. Now, the K30 Pro is no slouch. It still did a great job in this test. But once you combine the clarity of sound, the loudness, and the dual speaker stereo separation, the iPhone SE takes this audio test. And talking about battery, we have an 1821 milliampere capacity on the iPhone SE and a 4700 milliampere capacity on the Redmi K30 Pro. Guys, this is the one section that just blows my mind. And clearly, if you just think about those numbers, the fact that this phone has a battery almost 2.5 times smaller than the one on the Redmi K30 Pro is bonkers. But what is actually pretty surprising is that this phone's screen on time has not been the worst I've tested. You would think with that capacity, you're going to get around 2 or 3 hours of screen on time. Not true, guys. I got the other day 6 hours of screen on time from this iPhone SE, which isn't the best battery life, but it is a manageable amount of battery for most casual users, I would say. But there's no denying it. This K30 Pro is a battery champ, and it just obliterates the iPhone SE in this section. And in fast charging, the iPhone SE takes well over an hour and a half, even with the 18-watt charger, while this Redmi K30 Pro Zoom Edition takes around 1 hour to 1 hour and 10 minutes to charge this massive battery with its 33-watt charger. So it seems like battery is an automatic win here for the K30 Pro, right? Well, there's one area where the SE trumps the K30 Pro, and that is in wireless charging. And the fact that this iPhone SE does have wireless charging puts it at feature parity with much more expensive flagship phones than this Redmi K30 Pro. I love wireless charging, and I definitely have been using this quite a lot here on this iPhone SE. And if you're going to want wireless charging on a Xiaomi device, you're going to have to step up to the flagship, the Mi 10 series, because the Redmi K30 Pro doesn't have it. But that's still not enough to make up the difference. I award this battery round to the Redmi K30 Pro Zoom Edition. Stay tuned to part 2 of my epic iPhone SE versus Redmi K30 Pro showdown, featuring camera, PUBG, and the final verdict.